Hey, you Magento loving friends of mine. Joseph here with another practice test question. This one is smoking hard. It's a difficult question, and we're going to break down exactly what this is, what it looks like, and what was going through my mind when I came up to build it.
We take this place. Let me get my chair. Tomorrow we have Meet Magento New York, and I hope to see you all Magento lovers, because it's a very, very special place, very special time. So we are waiting for you there with Joseph.
Looking forward to being there, except he just took my chair there, but that's okay. Yeah, this is good. So we are excited to be at Meet Magento New York here tomorrow. Make sure, hopefully you all are coming. I know it's a tough geographical distance for some to travel, but there are plenty still traveling from that far. And Łukasz here, my friend, is one of them. And I'm excited to be able to, we're going to be at this conference together, and actually a number of our team is going to be there. So we'd love to meet you. Come up and shake our hands. He's one face at SwiftOtter, and there are plenty more as well that are going to be there. So thanks.
See you.
All right. That was a good interruption. That was good. So let's talk about this practice test question here. Here is how it goes. You have built a store locator module. Retail store locations are shown in a list and can be enabled or disabled. A retailer is reporting a problem where they enable the store, but the store's URL remains a 404 error. However, the store does appear in the general list of stores. The error disappears with a full cache flush. Keeping performance in mind, how do you fix this problem so the administrator doesn't have to manually flush the entire cache? You know, the reason this came to my mind was I was thinking about difficult challenges. I wanted to create a question about full page cache. But I got to say it, they fixed this problem for products. This is originally where it was. So I'm like, okay, how do I actually write a question about this? We can come up with something about something different. So this is really good for us to know and understand. And I would put this level in the architect test. So this is not something that you'd probably even see much of even on the expert test. This is challenging. So with that, what are the answers here for this particular question? I came up with three answers, and let's see which one is right and which one is wrong. A, create a plugin to add the product's cache identifiers to the cache tags for 404 pages. B, lower varnish's time to expiration to a minimal number to ensure the latest changes are quickly shown. C, intercept the getIdentities method when saving the cache to prevent setting the 404 cache tag. Like I said, this is not your run-of-the-mill practice test question. This is a challenging question, and it's going to take you some time to think through it. However, depending on the test you're going for, it's really good to take the time and think through this question. Now, what's the backstory on this? It's actually a unique situation with full-page cache. So let's say and actually one thing before I jump in there, there actually is a slight typo on this slide, which prompted me to talk to you about this. It actually is a store cache identifier, not a product cache identifier. I wrote it for products first, and I switched it over to stores, and not just like Magento stores. These are retail stores. So create a plugin to add the retail stores cache identifier. So we have a list of retail stores, and so from this list, you can click on a location, the Kansas City location, SwiftOtter.com/store/Kansas City. Well, we are going to do some remodeling on the Kansas City location. So we say, okay, we're going to go disable this store. Well, okay, great. So when we disable it, the cache is flushed for those cache tags, not a problem. Well, the search engines still have the Kansas City store picked up in the records, and they have it indexed, and people click on it occasionally, which ultimately keeps this Kansas City store page in the varnish cache. Okay, well, fast forward. This keeps happening. Well, we're ready to bring it on. Beautiful new store has been remodeled, ready to go. So we go in. We're excited. We hit the enabled button, and we still get a 404 page. Why? Well, here is the backstory, and this is where it's really important to think through, because I can not guarantee, but it's pretty close. If you're working on complex stuff, you're probably going to run across a problem like this or very similar at some point in your career. So here's what happened. The 404 page, hey, this store is not found, or actually it wouldn't say that. It would just, hey, this page is not found, is actually saved in varnish memory. Every time it's hit, we have then a lifetime until this page comes out of varnish memory. So what happens is when we enable this URL, well, there is nothing in varnish cache that actually has this retail store's ID as a cache tag for this endpoint, for this URL. It's just a 404 page. This file is not found. So we then have to clear the entire varnish cache, which then, and when we do that, of course, Magento recalculates this page and says, okay, well, this store is enabled, and thus we have a store we can display there. So basically, it's kind of almost a bit of a chicken and egg problem where the store is, this page has been cached as the old 404, and there's nothing that Magento knows in order to go find the cache tag to clear out that 404 page. Again, it works if the store is enabled, and it has this cache tag associated with it. That works because it says, okay, here's store ID 50, and we're going to go flush the cache for all pages that have this particular cache tag associated with it. That does not work on a 404 page. So with that as the background, and that's kind of the and I'm kind of giving you the majority of the story with this conversation, just to help set the stage. The question should make sense, but this will give you even more context to help make your decision as far as an answer. So with that in mind, let's look at each one of these answers individually and see which one makes the most sense. So let's look at A. Create a plugin to add the product's cache or retail store's cache identifiers to the cache tags for 404 pages. You know, and what's interesting about this is Magento literally has done this themselves. And here is their implementation for said functionality. In product not found cache, page cache tags.php, so it's this class right here, it is basically saying, get the full action name if it is basically a 404, getting the product ID, unfortunately loading the entire product from the product repository, which gets a downvote, in my opinion, on performance. Some people have worked around this, but pretty much a downvote. But then it pulls out the product identity. So there are ways that, and we actually implemented this on 2.3 for a client of ours, and it was much more performant, shall I say, but it didn't involve the product get identities simply because we didn't load up the entire product. All that to say, this is Magento's solution. Oh, wait, I'm just kind of giving it away. Well, that's okay, because ultimately this is the approach that you would want to take. Something very similar, basically saying, hey, is this a 404 path? If it is, then here is, let's pull the ID out of this, etc. So there is some gray area. This could be like a category page that would have this same problem. And actually, I would be very interested to know, as I'm thinking about this, this is product not found. This very same thing might also exist for categories, and I don't see like a category not found on here. So I am guessing this very same issue exists for categories as it is right now here in 2.4. I have not tested that out, but it would be my gut feeling there. Okay, so based off of this, and this is where it comes into digging into the question, understanding this, and then now we say, okay, well, I had a question that really challenged my memory when it comes to full page cache. Great. Now zoom out and say, okay, I need to learn everything about full page cache. And this is a brief tutorial about full page cache. So keep listening. All right, so let's look at the other two answers, and then I will walk through how full page cache is both flushed and how it is then also saved. So let's jump into these other two answers here. Lower varnish's timed expiration to a minimal number to ensure the latest change. Oh, come on, we don't even have to finish reading that one. I mean, what was the question itself? Look at this. Keeping performance in mind. Okay, now, would this actually solve the problem? Of course it would. Do we ever want to implement something like this to solve the problem? Please don't, folks. And I know you wouldn't. I know none of you listening to this would do that. So it kind of makes B a mute point, but it is still an option. And I put this in there to help us flush out on the keeping performance in mind section. Then the other option is C. intercept the get identities method when saving the cache to prevent setting the 404 cache tag. So this one is almost correct. And this could be a option. So we could intercept the CMS pages get identifiers method. But it says to prevent setting the 404 cache tag. Now, ultimately, what this would be if we built this out, while it can sound plausible for doing a quick read through this, it does not solve the problem whatsoever. Why? Because now we have 404 cache tags that if we were to go change our 404 page information, none of those would be flushed out. So we actually we don't solve the problem, we actually kind of make it worse. But on the surface, it seems like a reasonable answer. So let's walk through what does it take to flush the cache. So basically, when we are saving something, what happens and where does this happen? And this was a source of mystery because these places, these locations are scattered all throughout the Magento core, and it's difficult to find, to say the least. So let's take a look. All right, so the invalidate varnish cache method. Invalidate varnish cache, what this does is when this is being saved, it literally puts in this information. So it checks and says if the config type is varnish, and if it is enabled, then we're going to do this here. And I apologize, my allergies are getting the best of me this season, and it's kind of frustrating. So let's walk through this. We have our tag resolver get tags, and we're getting our tags here. Then we're merging all these tags together, the strategies, etc. And I am back after what I thought was going to be an earth-shattering and earthquake-sized sneeze. Didn't happen, so we're good to go. All right, so, but it still may happen. Keep that in mind. All right, so we have our tags. We have our object this is actually session info. Let's keep stepping through this. All right. Now we have our tags, and this is the pattern it's looking for. And what's most important, empty is tags. So this purge cache send purge request. Basically what this does is it sends gets the servers for our HTTP cache request. So if we look in the cache hosts, so we see our HTTP cache hosts, which happen to be stored inside of our config or env files. Let's see here. All right, let's host. There we go. Right here, and we can add as many as we want to this list. Basically, just pings it with some information here with this header. Piece of cake. But knowing where this is found is a big deal. So where is this found? This is found in let's see here, invalidate varnish observer. Done. Super easy, folks. Super easy. So basically, what this happens is this goes out to the varnish server, flushes anything with those cache tags out. Done. And that's where it's mostly seamless, because you don't even have to honestly know what's happening behind the scenes there. Now, let's look at what does it do when saving a cached request on the front end. How does that work? So one of the easiest ways to see this is I'm going to, in our example project here, I'm adding just a question mark test equals 1. This is a great way to bust out the varnish cache, make sure it bypasses this. And I will give a very quick plug for the environment that we use. We actually use Warden, or we have created a fork of that called Den. And what this is a Docker setup that's used by companies all over the world. And it allows us to have multiple environments stood up, very specific versioning per environment of Elasticsearch or MySQL, etc. And it allows us to have varnish. This is a big deal, folks. This is a really, really big deal that allows us to be able to test varnish-related stuff out. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to sit here and tell you about varnish, show you real-life demonstrations of how varnish works if it wasn't for Den or Warden. So, and by the way, our otters live in dens, so that's why we chose that name. Let's go back and look at this. Here's our layout plugin. And what we're going to see is we have our cache tags preprocessor. We have our tags here. These are the tags that are associated with looks like with a product. Those tags will be processed, and we see that the product not found page cache tags is associated in here. And then we set the header, response set header. X Magento tags. And if you look in the varnish VCL, the configuration file, you will see that X Magento tags is stripped out of there. For debugging, you can actually leave it in there. So X Magento tags is what is used to set the tags associated with these cache entries. And then eventually, in the future, Purge Cache will come back and clean this out. That, my friends. Oh, and I never told you which one was the correct answer. I think you already got that idea, but just so we're very clear, A is the one that I selected as the correct answer. And by the way, A is not always the correct answer. So this was a bit of a longer conversation today, but I think it's well warranted because full page cache is a big deal that not many people have a good grasp on exactly how it works. And I think, or hope, this gives you a good grasp as far as how full page cache works. Until next time, I hope you have a wonderful week. Hope to see you at Meet Magento New York, and look forward to another practice test question coming your way here next week.